the 6th community meeting we've had. I want to thank you for coming. The format will be Dr. Jones has a brief discussion. We'll open it up for questions. We have about an hour and a half. Basically, whatever questions you have, whatever issues that are relative to this, that are swaying you one way or the other, and you need additional information, let us know. The information is out there. There are people available to make it available to you. It's important that you understand everything, so that when you do vote on the 8th, that you're voting with all the knowledge that you were seeking with that knowledge. So we'll get started. Dr. Jones, the floor is yours. And again, thank you for coming, and we'll be talking.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. I'd like to thank everybody for being here this morning. I do appreciate it. I think you all are aware that on November 8th we're on the ballot, and this is something that we've been trying to really head off over the last 5 years by making a series of reductions over time. I think probably everyone has seen this. We've mailed this to all the parents. It's on our website. You go to the SOS button on our website. You can see this document, plus a lot of other financial information. When you look at the reductions that we started making in 06, 07, you know, we've totaled, just in sheer numbers, $8 million. And that does not count this past summer when our employees, through the negotiations process, agreed to a zero base increase and no step increases in their salary for the next 2 years. They've also agreed to increase their health care contribution from 5 to 10% this year and 15% next year. That goes for all the administrators, including myself and our treasurer. So, $8 million. The freezes on everyone's salaries are not included in that number. And then if you look at that final total, we're over $15 million. We would have done nothing in terms of cost reductions. We would have spent another $15 million. Included in this are 4 administrative positions that have been eliminated. We have about 30 administrators in the district, so it's roughly 12, 13% of the administrative staff has been reduced. 37 teaching positions have been eliminated over the last 5 years. And I do say, happily, most of those were done through attrition as people leave or retire. We were very, very careful to look at our numbers in terms of students and see who do we have to replace. You may have seen like Green or Hudson announcing 45 teachers being laid off, or 65, or some unbelievable number. We kind of did it along the way through attrition. We tried to avoid walking up to people and giving them a pink slip if we could, but along the way those 37 positions are still gone. Class sizes don't go down when you lose 37 teaching positions. Now granted, our enrollment has declined slightly. That is true, but still 37 teaching positions. There have been also a large number of classified positions. Maintenance staff, we have 8 people to handle 9 buildings plus central office and a bus garage to pave 1 million, roughly, square feet of pavement in the wintertime. Sometimes we get frustrated in the summer. You drive by Riverview and the grass is up to your knees. And these guys are scrambling, but there's just, you know, we're at a skeleton crew in many, many places, and that's just the honest truth. While we made these reductions, we also began a community engagement process, is what we called it, where we went out and said, we've been on the ballot several times, so we said, time out on asking for money. Let's go out and talk to people and ask them, where do you want us to save dollars here? And so we had 44 meetings. We were in rooms like this, we were in schools, we were in people's living rooms, and Crooked River and other places. And they came up with all the comments. We took notes, and there were 9 areas they said for us to look at. One was Busing, can you save some money with busing? So we eliminated high school busing as a step in that direction. They said, what about pay to participate? So we implemented that, then we increased that. They said, items, what about stuff in negotiations in the contract? Can we do something with that? We said, well, once we get back to the table when this contract expires, yeah. And I've already explained what we did this summer. They also said, do you still need 9 buildings, Russ? So we had a outside person, retired business manager, who has some experience, do a walkthrough of all of our buildings, look at our square footage, our enrollments, age of the buildings, and put together a report for us, giving us some options of what we could do with our buildings. To be honest, I don't like any of the options. I mean, that's just me, but you know, it involves either closing a elementary building, and there's some cost savings for that. But if you think about this, if you close one of our elementary buildings, and I'll be honest, Highland is our oldest building, and there's some repair issues there, so that's one that we often look at, even though it's a beautiful building and really a centerpiece, I think, of architecture in town. Once you close one building, elementary building, you have to redistrict the entire district. Because all of the kids, let's say at Highland, or if it was Indian Trail we were closing, they don't just go to another building. You've got to distribute them. And if that happens, then you have no art room, no music room, no computer lab. You have art on a cart, music on a cart, which if that's what we want, we can do that. I don't think that's the best thing for our kids. Another thing we could do is try to scooch an entire grade level into Lakeview, or scooch another entire grade level into Kimpton. That causes, you know, issues as well in terms of reconfiguring the building, and can you fit them, and is that, again, educational. So, and there's other options too that involve either additions to a couple of the elementary buildings and then closing 2 or 3, or building a brand new building. And what some of the difficulties with those things are, you have to go to the voters for a bond issue and get that approved. And then that doesn't solve our operating issue. Then you would save money over time after you start going out 6, depending on the plan, 6, 8 years, you start to save some dollars. So anyway, so we haven't done anything with that building study yet, as I'm kind of walking mentally through, you know, a few of the 9 things in that community engagement. So we tried to implement as many of these as we could, and continue to reduce. Another one was to look at Kimpton Middle School. Is that middle school concept, is that too expensive to have? I went to a junior high school, I'm fine, you know, that kind of. So we did have a middle school team meet over the course of last year. They visited a lot of middle schools and did their research and came back, and we modified Kimpton. Changed some things a little bit, but we hung on to the team concept because the teachers were adamant about how important that is for kids. You have, you know, 900 kids in a building in 7th and 8th grade. That school within a school, teachers really getting to know, you know, and teams, kids is really critical for their development. So we were able to hang on to that, but we still eliminated 9 positions at Kimpton. So we've implemented a number of those community engagement suggestions, and we're at the end now. I mean, we're at the point where, okay, it's buildings, it's, you know, but before we get to those things that really impact the academic piece, we have some other reductions on the table that I know you're all aware of, and they're all uncomfortable. They're all impacting kids, they're all impacting parents, and this is where we were trying not to go. We don't want to do these things. We've been trying to hold this off and hold this off, and we're there. So that's kind of the gloomy picture. The good picture, I will say, I think there's been, I've seen a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of people working very hard to get the word out on this, because the struggle seems to be to really get accurate information out to people, and to get people to understand the urgent need that we have, and that this impacts kids, and that communities are defined by their school system. That's why people want to be here. I can't tell you how many folks have told me I moved to Stow because of the schools. I can tell you that when I got to the point where I was interested in being a superintendent, I was picky, and I knew about this community and this school district, and that was attractive. So, me too. And my daughter is a freshman here at this high school. That's my choice. Because I believe in this school, I believe in this community, and it's time for us to make it happen. It's been 2002 since we've had new dollars into this district. I mean, we've stretched it as far as we can. I'm just being honest with you. I don't know where else to look until we really start to impact the classroom, and our mantra has been, let's keep it out of the classroom, because that's what schools are all about in the end. There's a lot of stuff going on in schools, but what kids do in the classroom every day is what we're really all about. So, with that, I will open it up to questions, thoughts, comments.
Dr. Jones, I work over at Children's Hospital, and it just so happens a number of people in my department are in the Stow community and are 60 plus. The feedback I hear is what's actually been done. So they weren't one of the recipients of the flyer that came home that was so well detailed, and I so appreciated having a visual image of what the cuts were. I know I'm suspecting to some degree it's a cost issue, and there's been lots of opportunity for people to hear about issues and come out and get questions and answers. But I'm wondering if there's any thought that hasn't already been thrown out there to share that with the community, because there's a degree of kind of preaching to the choir by saying that to the parents, and certainly parents need to see that, and parents are voters too. But there's so many people, I'm assuming, in the community that don't have kids in the schools or have aged out or whatever the case is. And I think that visual is just so powerful. Is there any opportunity to share that with the community, whether that's, I'm assuming the simple way would be the Stow Century, it would get out to a lot of people. And the other question she had was, so if we pass the levy, what are they going to do with the money? And I kind of thought, well, the obvious is if they're making these cuts, and they're telling what the cuts are going to be, because she felt those were threats, yeah, they're just threatening us. And she's a really bright woman who strongly believes in kids and families. But I just thought that piece of paper, those pieces of paper were really valuable. And then stating the obvious. If this is passed, we won't have to make the cuts that we've put out there, because it really puts a positive flair on it, rather than if people are perceiving that we are in the part.
Right.
So I don't know if there's opportunity to do that, because I'm sure with Stow Century, that's a lot of information, so it's going to take up space and cost too.
Well, I agree with you, because when I've been at these meetings and we hand this out and kind of walk through it in even more detail than I did today, most people are, this needs to be out.
Yeah.
People need to know this. So, and I will tell you that this isn't the first time we've been on the ballot. We've been, 5 or so times, and we have stayed completely away from here's what's coming, guys.
But it has to be out there.
And we've said we're not going to threaten. We don't want to threaten. We don't want to, we don't want to put that reality out there. We've kept promoting the excellence and maintain the excellence, and but now we've tried to avoid getting there, and unfortunately but I understand. I guess if we would have done nothing and came out and said we're going to make all these, then I would have. So, but we do have some advertising coming out in the Stow Century, and
Next week
and the following week. It doesn't have all of this on here, although that was part of the fabric. Can we get 3 pages, on a full page?
Right.
Well, what about the people that have already, the absentee ballots, they've already put them in? But, there's now advertisements saying, come out and vote early. We're waiting till, later, to the November date.
I think there were a couple issues with the Century as far as availability for getting the ad in. Right, we couldn't just put it in whenever we wanted.
Okay.
Because of the election, and then also the fundraising element as well, to get enough money to put it in the paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so everyone knows, is that everything that you've seen so far is funded through donations, not through the school district.
No, I know
And
that.
the work that's been done so far has been done by volunteers, so we're somewhat limited. We have a great group of volunteers, but there's only so much so many people can do. And the other thing too is, and I know particularly older people that don't necessarily have access to the internet or don't really want to, which is fine.
We're gonna
But
complain, but not look.
yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
all this information is on the website, the school's website. There's a big red SOS button that'll take you to a page that has that on it. Unfortunately, that still doesn't get to everyone. And the mailer that we did went to every household in Stow and Munroe Falls. That went out last week, about 10 days ago, I guess. I mean, to be honest, I guess I wish we could go door to door and talk to everyone.
But are we doing a lit drop?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, in addition to that, in 2 weeks, we have a large group of volunteers that are going door to door as much as they can and do a literature drop door to door. Not so much to talk to people, but just to leave the information.
What is the information that's going to be?
It's the same, it's that flyer.
Is that one?
I'm doing that again. I guess, I don't know what the solution is, and I guess we're open to suggestions. It's a little late now, to be honest with you, but it's just a manpower and money issue.
There's ways probably to simplify that down so it takes up less space, and that would be cost saving. Like just simplifying the year, staff cuts, and the amount of money, because seeing what you spent it on, I love that it's detailed out per position. That was phenomenal. But even if you can summarize, that would save space.
I believe the ad does
I think the ad
have
does.
line by line year.
Okay.
And again, I wish we could have run ads in 4 or 5 weekend editions in Stow Century. I really wish we could have to get it out earlier, but the money just isn't there. You know, it's
$1,800 for those 2 weekends.
2 weekends, yeah.
Can you share the detailed list with the people you work with?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Because that's a lot of, I think a lot of one-on-one conversation is helpful, you know. It takes an army of people to do that.
And please, if any of those people have any questions, they can call the district offices, and there are very friendly people there that will answer their questions. Just keep in mind that, you know, they may not be able to answer the question that minute when you call, because they are trying to run a school district with a limited number of people. But they will get an answer for you, and you will get back. They will get back to you. I'm sorry, Mike.
One of the most effective things I have seen is like when you, I'm sure you talked up the school, when we're talking, we gave them all these facts. And I think that has been a very good way of spreading some of the people who haven't. I think all the moms and everybody dads has reached some of those voters.
That's what I think is really good. Talk to neighbors and residents.
And I think it's important to know that when the levy passes, it's not extra money on top of anything. It's to keep everything going in the right direction.
I think it keeps us at the edge of the woods.
Right.
Not even quite right, because now Mrs. Bolger will have her 5-year forecast by Monday. And I know she's often said that we really need 14 million, but of course none of us could, really afford that. So this will keep us, hopefully, being able to do the same services that we've had, and hopefully continue to add more. But at this stage of the game, this is just going to pay for our operating funds at this point. So.
Yeah.
I think those are good things to clarify because, I'm just a believer that you support your schools and your community, you vote for the levy. That's not a great argument for people. So I do have to say these meetings have been helpful. I've gained a lot of information that I think helps make the argument. So I think these community meetings are.
The only problem, Laura, and I share the frustration, and just as we had the community meetings before 44, a couple of years ago or a year ago, we just don't get the people. And, it's so frustrating, Mike, you've been putting the information in the Stow Century when we're having community meetings, and, You know, we see, which is great, I'm so glad to see the same people, but when they're not here, you know, I don't know what you do.
Right, but, I mean, I know, and that's pretty grim, but I would just like to say that I appreciate all you guys have put out there, because it has educated me, and hopefully if I change a couple votes, I think a lot of
And
them.
a couple votes, and that's what we've said, this grassroots movement that has been done by the parents has been invaluable, just invaluable, and we thank you. And your children.
Well, you don't need to thank us, I mean, I think it's something that we should do. And it is funny how when you start talking to some of these, maybe either older people or people who don't support the levy for whatever reason, and you start giving them the facts, their face just changes, and they're like, wow. Like, I think a perfect example is, there was one woman that attends the Crooked River Grill, and I think she initially came out and said, I'm not voting, I don't want my taxes to be raised. And when we started talking about some of the issues at the last meeting, she said, well, can I have some of this information? I'm gonna go around and tell my neighbors why we should vote for levy. And my husband too, we do absentee ballots, and you know, he signs and I just tell him what to vote for. So there we go, I think that's a perfect example of how the tide is changing, with a lot of this information that has been put out.
We're trying.
Yeah, you guys, I think you guys are doing good.
A couple things real quick too, is it is a 6.5, it will raise $6.5 million per year for 10 years. And so it's 6.5 million, not $65 million a year. I wish it were $65 million for those new buildings, but it's not. And then also keep in mind too that a $2002 is worth 72 cents today. So today, to cover today's cost, you've got to spend $1.28 of money that you got that's worth 78 cents or 70 cents. So that's part of where that $6.5 million goes, is offsetting those added costs of inflation.
I know people get worried about the cost out of pocket, and I totally appreciate that. We're in a different day and age than we have been before. What they're not realizing or choosing to look at is the return value.
Sure.
Even if you don't have kids, look at property costs. You don't want to pay out, but what's going to happen to the community, and to real estate, and to your own home's cost if this doesn't pass?
Yeah, I've got 3 kids in college.
Right.
And, well, 2.5 kids. I got 2 kids in college and one that's struggling in college and living at home. And, you know, I know that it's not easy. And, you know, finding that additional money is, to me personally, is something you just have to do. I don't want my property values to go down anymore. I look at it as an investment. I'm trying to convince others too that it is an investment in the future.
I think it goes a little bigger than just the schools, it's the community too. I mean, your property value is one thing, but when businesses start leaving, they don't want to come here because, you know, our community's messed up. I think it's going to affect everybody. And I don't think people are that far-sighted. Maybe they're short-sighted on the one issue, just how it affects them personally, but it's going to affect them personally in the end anyway. So,
Well, didn't Catherine say that we're the biggest employer?
Yes.
I gotta think that has huge economic impact. It's gonna have a huge economic impact all around when we start shutting the schools down earlier. I mean, I think it's a ripple effect.
You know, that's a good point, Laura, because I know some people have said, well, look, the city of Stow, they only have a $22 million operating fund. And compared to what does the school have, like a $50 million operating fund? We employ a lot of people. And that says it right here, when they're trying to compare, why do we spend more? Well,
the city of Stow also doesn't have to house a bunch of students and pay for their electricity and pay for the, they're talking about the paper plot. I mean, there's so many additional costs built into the school system.
As an example, I live in Munroe Falls. The city of Munroe Falls, the school system has $6 million in payroll in Munroe Falls. So it generates $120,000 a year in revenue for the city. A loss of any of that to the city of Munroe Falls, it probably isn't going to put them in the red, but it's going to be a major impact on them. And it's, you know, Stow has the other 90% of that.
How many kids do we have enrolled currently within the district?
It's about 5,400.
And we still do that with the second lowest per student?
We got the red SOS button, there's, hit that, there's links, Summit County cost comparisons. We have the second lowest administrative cost per pupil in Summit County. So, I've heard people say we have too many administrators and they're overpaid. Well, let's look at the facts. That's simply not true. The fourth lowest instructional cost per pupil in Summit County. And the fourth lowest total cost per pupil in Summit County. So we look at how much you spend on administrators per pupil. Only Norton pays less, spends less. You look at instructional costs, which are teachers and aides in the classroom primarily. We're fourth from the bottom. And the total cost that we spend per pupil is fourth from the bottom in Summit County.
Who falls below us in those, do you know, or any of the four?
Off the top, I heard about.
What was the question?
Who falls below us in the groups where we're fourth from the bottom?
Anybody has?
I looked at it a long time ago, but I didn't.
Anybody have internet access?
Yeah, there's three.
Below.
Oh, I think they were different. Two of them.
Anyway, we do it for less. Here's the point.
Probably fourth from the bottom may not be as important to some people as how many we are from being at the top of the list.
Well,
Because
there's only
fourth,
three that pay less. I think that's important.
what I'm saying is fourth from the bottom sounds good to us because we know that the list isn't five people, five groups, five schools. But if you list fourth out of, if you tell how many there are that you're comparing, that maybe shows the true meaning of that fourth from the bottom.
Okay.
Because fourth from the bottom out of 5 or 6 doesn't mean much, but fourth from the bottom out of 16 or 20 would mean so much more.
So
I think that's
83, I have 83 on the fiscal, on Summit County's website for the fiscal report now. 83 will include 2 for Stow Munroe Falls, because they put the road falls in Stow separate. So, yeah, out of 83.
So that would be like 2 for us, 2 for Poplar Grounds, or anybody else that's a double city.
Well, there's 17 school districts in Summit County.
17, okay, so that would probably be the best way to do it then, 4 from the bottom and 17.
Right, there was 17, 4 from the bottom, and we what, 13?
Well, just even if you said out of 17, I think hopefully people can do that. Addition and subtraction. But I just mean, I think that sounds somewhat more impressive when you're trying to put that information out there than saying we're fourth from the bottom. Yeah, how much?
We had a memo from one of our realtors, I don't know when this came, but it was interesting. She said, hello, Stow resident, want to pass along some Summit County tax rate info. According to the current tax rates, Stow is among the lowest in Summit County. And she said, check it out on Summit County Fiscal Office website. And it's called a full tax summary, because that's what we heard a lot when I walked for the August levy. Oh, we pay so, we're the highest, we pay a lot of taxes now. And, for the, I don't know, I think of Stow as an up and coming community, not a low community. And to think that we've done that with both city and schools, with having amongst the lowest taxes. So, maybe that information could go out to your friend at the hospital too, who's questioning.
And I think on top of that, our school's rated so high for such
Right.
a low cost.
Right.
I think that, to me, shows an effective use of the
Exactly.
way things have been managed.
And that's on the Forest Smith Kids website. There's a link right on there to that office. With the spreadsheet, it'll pull it right up. Springfield is less than us, and I don't think that they have a high rating. Coventry and Green pay less than us. That's it.
And Greens, I think of those, I think Greens are the ones that
Actually, it's about comparable.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, because I actually went and looked at those on the report card.
It's not that much difference. It's $250. That's it.
really think that perhaps when we're thinking about literature drop, and I know that there's been the request for kids to go with, or maybe at the rally after the football game, it might be really important to have some kids out there who have the guts to stand up. Hopefully we can find enough that do. But who'll say, really, am I not that important to you?
Well, I was going to, we live in Sherwood Acres, and my kids and I were gonna write a letter, and I was gonna have them sign it. And then, just make copies and literally go door to door. There's a bunch of older folks that live in the condos. So I figured, why not? I mean, I can't keep them quiet, so, let them go, let them go. Let them,
Good for you, that's super.
go up to the doors and knock, and they don't have a problem with that. They want to, do fundraising door to door, so.
There's some all adult areas in this city that either they do vote for no, or they don't vote at all. And if we could get some of them, just some of them to vote yes. Using the children is, have to be yours, but it would be really cute if they would walk up, knock on the door, and hand them that little postcard that says, I'm here, now what are you gonna do with me?
Do we have that mapped out where those areas are?
Well, there's a major area behind Woodland, for one example.
So when we do that Saturday or Sunday, whenever we do that walk, those should be
That would,
designated areas.
Condos are generally not with children, and condos are older individuals, and there are some restrictions on knocking on doors in a condo area, but I think if you had children knocking on doors for candy or Halloween, it wouldn't be that far away to knock on the door for this type of thing.
You're not gonna call the cops on a 10-year-old.
Yeah,
10-year-old and a
one of the
7-year-old.
people in our neighborhood is about ready to buy kids candy and hand the guy that opens the door candy and says, here, Halloween's coming, and so is voting. Please be there.
Give them a sucker.
Give them a sucker. Yeah. I do that. There's all kinds of ways to get attention. Good thought. Thank you.
One more interesting factor too is since 1986, we've only passed 3 new money levies. Just 3, not 15.
Russ, what was the number the coach put on the difference of college education costs since 2002? I think it was 50.
Yeah, I think it was.
I can tell you personally, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the cost of college is
Huge.
astronomical.
I can.
Yeah, you can.
Well, I can chime in from the other, I mean, it is high, but I can chime in, I've got 4 kids. 2 have already went through the system, and 2 have scholarships. So they both have scholarships going through this system. And hopefully, I'm betting 500, so hopefully the other 2 that are in the system now will carry that tradition on. It's saving me a bundle of money. It's actually saving them because I put money away for them, so they'll have a bank account when they finish.
Somebody put numbers out there, and I can't remember what they were, I'll have to get them on, what the percentage increase was at the college level for tuition, and how much that's increased over the past 10 years compared to the high school, elementary levels. We're not able to increase our charges 54% or something like that, like colleges do, but we've seen a huge increase at that level.
That was over 100%. For some of the colleges in the last 10 years.
I just remember
Some
like
have increased
YSU,
over
Kent
100%.
State, the amounts that they've increased. It was, over 50% in the last 10 years.
And the
So-
scholarships don't get that increase.
And they're on the lower end of what the increases are, because some of the private areas have increased even more than that.
Right. So I mean, we're in the business of educating our children, but yet we're expected to do it at a penny level compared to what the colleges are doing. I just don't understand how you can't relate that. That it is expensive to educate the kids, to prepare them, to pay the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And and I'm in human resources, so I see the credit reports of these kids when they come out of college, and they have hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, and they're going to then be making $24,000 a year with their diploma. So I know it's very expensive to educate them, and if I can prepare my kids a little bit more now to possibly get them a scholarship later on, I'm all for paying another $200 a year to do that.
I'm just curious, a question for you guys, kind of a monitor here. When you talk to your friends and neighbors, when you look at it in their eyes, what do you see? Is it 50-50, yes, no? I mean, for the levy? I mean, I'd be interested in knowing what you're seeing.
I think it
I'm
depends if
looking
they have
for-
kids or not.
I'm sorry?
I think it depends if they have kids or not, and if those kids attend Stow schools rather than Walsh, CBCA, Holy Family. Those things make a difference. Those are the people who look at you and say, there's no way I'm paying another penny, I pay enough for tuition now.
That's their choice too.
I understand that's their choice, but that doesn't mean that they get that. Because it doesn't matter to them because their kids aren't in this system. And I mean, I've actually spoken to those people, and that's point blank. They have come out and said to me, I will never vote for that. I pay enough in tuition. I said, but you could send your kids to a really good school right here without the tuition. And they said, yes, but that's not what I want to do. And I said, but it's still your obligation then.
It's your community, it's your
To
investment.
do that for your
Yeah,
community, and they
those are-
say, no, it's not. So, you
Those
know,
are
I don't
the
know how
people that we need to bring
how
out
you
property
convince someone
value.
who does that and has that attitude.
Those
Yeah,
are the
that's
people
a
we need to bring
property
out the point of property value. Because,
I know, we've said
yes,
it.
you send them out, but just look at your home, what you own, return investment. If you don't want to think about the kids, and you want to think about yourself, you think about your pocketbook, your property value.
But this was the answer I got to that. If my property value goes down, then I can qualify for a scholarship at a private school.
What about a state
Because then I don't
neighborhood?
have as much income. That really is the
Well, how-
answer, you
how
know,
big
they've
of a-
thought all the way
How
around
big of
this.
a population are we talking? Because I think there's
It's a
people
small
you're never
number.
going to convince, and they have a right to send their kids to private schools, vote the way they want. My biggest thing is the people in the schools that have been giving out misinformation.
Right.
I think if we change them, and I think, I see the
Hopefully.
tide, I see the tide changing. One of the things I see is, you know, you have an individual family who feel really the economic pinch right now. And one good example at the Echo Hills meeting we had is the mom said, I am paying $1,000 for, but Pat, you had helped address this question. I'm paying $1,000, not 1,000, how much you said, $100 for track, 150, there's 50, you know,
She said 100, there's 100 people went off the track, so that's $15,000.
yeah, she's
She
like,
wanted
why
to know where all
isn't
that
this,
15,000 was
right,
going.
right. And so when it was explained to her, the ins and outs, and then it was explained to her how much, you know, the school, you know, has to pay out for other things,
Other
she was
supplements.
sold.
She didn't have any problem then.
Right, and so I think when people, you know, people just get this small portion, and it's pinching, you know, and it's hurting some of them. But once it's explained, they're really for it. So I think that's where the message needs to be.
Right, because there's always gonna be that percentage, I mean, what do the statistics show, what, 20% always vote no? And then there's a percentage that always vote yes. It's those in-between people that you really need to focus on, that you need to talk to, because it's not gonna matter what they read or see, they're gonna make their own opinions, but when they actually
Exactly.
talk to a person, that's what makes
I think
it.
they have some valid questions. I think it's a valid thing to say, is, you know. Another thing was the, you know, the busing. Okay, I'm gonna pay this levy, and, is the busing gonna just be back for 1 year? And I think, they did a good job explaining, no, we're gonna, you know, we're not sure, we can't guarantee, but she was sold, you know, she was ready to go for it, so.
I talked to a mother the other night at Lakeview, and she has 3 children, and they're all gonna be at different schools, and they all are gonna lose their busing. She's, like she said, just, I am scared to death that this levy is going to fail. And I went, you know, I mean, and that hurts when you hear that. But speaking of, like, now we are gonna be at Holy Family November 2nd, June, so hopefully, and we went last year, and we were very cordially received. I think possibly the fact that we could bring the information out about high school busing returning in clusters, that might help with understanding people.
Is there any busing that they don't receive as a result of what's going on here that they would
Yes, there will
then
be,
get back?
but not as much, there's not as many.
Still might help.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Busing's gonna be the big thing for them. And they do get, some special services.
So those are good things to mention.
It is, it's,
I
what
do
they
have a
receive
number of
before
people
your
who do
tax
attend, and some of
dollars.
the people in our neighborhood go to IHM, so they're not even in this school district. Do we do anything to accommodate them? I
No.
mean, we must do something, because I see their kids get off of a bus that goes to Lakeview, but yet they attend IHM, so I'm
Yeah,
guessing.
we have the,
Oh, yeah.
so they do get the busing if they live in Stow.
Yeah. If
Okay.
it,
Or we pay them.
if it's a
But I mean, if their
Let
drop
Dr.
spot
Jones
is,
tell you what, some of these bus routes, that's
If-
kind of interesting.
but if their drop spot then is less than 2 miles from Lakeview, for example, since that's the bus ICE is dropping them off, then they would not have that busing, correct?
It's where there's.
It would be, I mean,
Well, if it's
yeah,
a,
it's not theirs to IHM, it's theirs to Lakeview, I would
Correct.
think.
if it's a private school within our community, then it's measured just like anybody else. If Holy Family is your school, if you are within 2 miles from Holy Family, there's no busing. Okay?
Well, IHM's in Cuyahoga Falls.
That's the second part of the,
Okay.
just making sure we're, so the second, if you're outside of the city limits to communities, and you live, and the trip is 30 minutes or less, then we provide busing. Okay? The question is, the measurement is from the school you would have been assigned to if you were going to school here. So if you were, so it's different if you're a Riverview student, would have been assigned there versus Fish Creek. You're talking maybe a couple mile difference there. So it's measured from there to the private school, and if you're within 2 miles, you do not get busing.
And the school district has to provide busing at the school district's cost. They don't pay for any of that?
Right, we provide,
No,
You
they
have
they don't pay.
State law.
State law,
State law.
30 minutes.
That's gone through the federal courts, sometime. I taught school law a few times, and that was, I'm a taxpayer, I deserve the opportunity to have the transportation, just like public school student, and that's what the courts found, so.
Okay.
Now, there are some limitations.
Well, then they should go for Levy to pay taxes.
That's what we're
They get
bringing
services
up.
too, they get to use the nurse, and there's other special services that, at the board meetings, they
Yeah,
do approve
that's a hard sell.
the money to go
Even
to them.
that.
It goes to other schools.
So if it's outside of 30 miles, if they want to go to, or 30 minutes trip, they want to go to St. Ignatius, we don't have to provide busing, but we can give them a payment in lieu of busing, which is not very much. But if it's in 30 minutes.
Okay, so then I have a question that's kind of an extension of this, and I hate if it draws too much off topic, it's not my intent. But with House Bill 136 that's out there right now, that's the whole thing about vouchers.
Monday, we're
If
doing-
that were to go through and be a yes, then is that gonna, take away a whole lot more from us? Because my fear is, especially if the levy doesn't pass, that then people will opt to get a voucher to send their kids someplace where they are gonna get busing because they don't have it here.
But we
I mean, is that a distinct possibility? That's what I'm
We
asking.
can only
Yeah.
speculate, but I'm sure that if these reductions have to take place on November 14th, I'm sure there will be people considering their options.
Because then that, of course, would take more money away from us, but we would still,
If you use an example like Walsh, whose tuition is $6,000 or more, the most you can get on that vouchers and that bill is $4,000.
Right.
So you're gonna pay more to go to private school than you would if it's passing the levy.
I'm aware of
It would
that.
cover whole families.
Yeah.
I have no intent to do
I
that.
understand,
I'm
but I'm
aware of
saying
that.
that's what, there is a cap on it, it's $4,000.
Right, yeah,
We still have to take them there now?
I don't know.
I would say that that's probably where the parents in Stow, you're knowledgeable about House Bill 136, but I bet there are very few that you need to get Christina Redner on the phone or a letter or something and say,
Already
wait a
in
minute,
process. I'm doing the letter for the entire state of
Because I
Ohio.
know I
for
gave her an
advocacy for
earful when she
children,
was
so,
here
yeah.
saying, we can't afford this. And she said, but you've got such an excellent school system that who's going to leave it? Well, that's what we said, if the levy fails. And I do know there's 200 seats open at Holy Family.
So, yeah, I mean, 4,000 would cover their tuition. So
Right.
I see that Revere School Board did pass that they are against House Bill 136. And I think at this point that would be controversial. We might lose votes from our non-public.
Well, and that, I'm waiting for approval. I just worked very hard on all the information to put out there on the Ohio PTA website and on the
Good.
CapWiz to use that, which is a tool to go in and notify your representatives. But that's my job this year is the director of advocacy for
I think we were told that 1,600 students would lose, additional students would lose busing November 15th, roughly. 1,600 students, that's almost a third of the entire student population to lose.
Yeah, but that times, you know, if you're talking them, all of those people getting vouchers, then that's a huge number to take out of the funds that what little funds we are getting.
I'm looking at it as a whole lot of cars instead of students.
Well, that
Oh my
too.
goodness, I was up at the high school the other day, and it's a nightmare. It's absolute nightmare. And it's pitch dark, and you're trying to drive to the parking lot, and the kids are walking 15 abreast. You know?
It's like the largest used car lot in the state.
Oh,
Really
yeah.
unbelievable.
I think we're not gonna mess apples with oranges at this point. We'll worry about that. I think what we have to worry about is getting the levy passed for our
Right.
existing students.
I guess my, having here is to give incentive to people to be students, because without it, I fear that even greater.
Cal, I want to go back to the question I asked earlier, just very quickly, the people you talked to, if they were going to vote today, how many do you think would vote, or how many do you know, not how many, who would vote for the levy? Not you personally, but do you think you'd have more yes votes than no votes? The same?
No, I think there could be more no's from the people I've talked to.
I know more yeses, unfortunately.
No, that's okay.
More yeses.
And I don't want to, I'm not looking for a rosy picture here, guys. I mean, it really is a true temperature of what you're hearing.
They might have lied to me, I don't know.
What was the number you needed last, 4,000 something? Remember with, was that
It was 4,500.
4,500?
Yeah, just a refresher
But
too,
this will be a bigger
in
count.
August, 4,600 voted against it, 2,500 voted for it, or, yeah, for it. So, I mean, is the gut feeling, is it the vote for today, it would fail?
I think you have a totally different population voting in August, totally different than you will in November. So, I mean, the expectation that it was passed in August, I would have been shocked if it had passed, just because it is totally different.
I agree with Christine, I think so.
Is there anything we only have 2 weeks, is there anything we should be doing different?
Do you have a sense of who's already came to these meetings? Because I'm wondering, can you reach out to people who came to these meetings, and I'm coming in late in the game, and can each of those persons bring at least one, if not more people that are opposed to the meetings, invite them personally, don't just tell them about the meeting, come with me, let's meet, let's go together, and get them into the rooms to hear. And I plan to do that, and I'm gonna ask my friend who's opposed, 2 friends who are opposed, one of which has kids in the school, and I'm gonna ask them to bring their friends.
Sure. The answers are out there, I know they can get the answers to their questions.
But it's bringing them to the material. If they're not gonna seek it out, it's inviting them.
I think it's a.
So if people in this rooms know people who've been in these rooms or have thought about it, bring it in.
Good point. Any others?
I think it should not be 1, it should be 5. I mean, I think it should be
But at
more.
least one. Yeah,
At least 1, yes. Yeah. Because I get on my phone and I text everyone, come to this meeting, come to this meeting, I brought so.
Do you think it's a situation where they made up their mind already, or
I
just
think
busy?
they just have this mentality of, you know, all these things are threats. You know, they're just threatening us.
It's the
And
same
it's
people
they
that-
and us.
When is the threat of, what's the
The
promise of
busing.
threat?
The busing is a threat. They think.
I mean, I've been to a number of board meetings, and it's kind of interesting that the people that want to know what the cuts are going to be are the same people that are saying it's a threat. And I guess I just don't understand.
See, I don't see how it's a threat, because last time we were given, okay,
They
this
want
is
to know
what's
what's
gonna
going to be
happen.
provided.
And this is what happened. not a threat if it has a date on it.
Based on it.
Wow.
November
It
15th.
isn't really a consequence, not a threat, it's a consequence, it's not
It's gonna
anything. I mean, if you don't have money to pay for something, as an example someone gave, if your husband loses his job and you had a vacation planned, are you still gonna go on that vacation? Well, I would think not, because you don't have the money for it. It's a consequence, and I don't understand how to get through those people that's like, they're threatening us. They're not threatening us, they don't have money, they can't pay for these things.
Right.
And I even challenged someone at Echo Hills and said, how would you label it, or how would you word it positively? If you're thinking this is negative, and they're threats, how would it possibly be, and he didn't really have an answer. And I just wanted to know, because maybe I'm not thinking outside the box, maybe there is a way to make it positive. I don't know,
Well, I
but
guess
I don't see
I've
one.
had questions too. Well, if it's gonna be cut, why did we start the year with it? Well, isn't it a lot easier to cut something and as opposed to starting the year out saying if the levy passes, we're gonna implement busing again. Okay, we're gonna start the year, we're not gonna have busing, then we're gonna implement it again. We're hopeful that it's going to pass. And so we start the year out, give people a chance, do what we can with the little money we can, and then if it doesn't pass, then we say, okay, we just can't do it anymore. I mean, that's my thought on that question. Is that true? I mean, is that a good interpretation of it?
We did have those conversations
We did.
in August, say, should we just make these reductions right now? But we thought it was not fair to people to not give them an opportunity to make that decision on their own. So
And that was our thinking. That definitely was. And the other answer to it, if you look at all of the cuts, the purpose for having a school system is education. And not one of them is hitting our children in the classroom. This is our last ditch effort on that. So, I mean, I think that's an excellent answer to anybody saying, wow, you know, we're not, you know, competing education, but we're saving, if we have to, we'll save money here. And this is where we're gonna save that money.
It's only gonna be temporary though, because I mean, how many people here, cause, you know, in 2002, I didn't have a BlackBerry, I didn't have all this other stuff I gotta keep up with. As the cost of all the technology goes up, we gotta keep supplying that to the school system with everything else, and you know, it's gonna come to a head again, so I mean, you're just.
Oh, it'll come to a head next year. If the levy fails, we're not gonna have as many teachers as we have now. We're not gonna have as many bus drivers, we're not gonna have the money. And we are so far behind now with ordering books, which we're not gonna will probably be technology in the future. But I mean, next year is going to impact this education of our students at Stow, period. I mean, there's no doubt about it if this levy fails. And that's not a threat, that's a reality.
Well, I think the first sentiment was not just so much as it's a threat, I think it was, that's not gonna happen. And now it's a threat. So maybe we're moving in the right direction. So we start to acknowledge it seriously.
I think that's too, the conception among at least some of the people that I spoke with, is that when they look at the cuts that are being made, that it's not affecting the schools, it's affecting the kids and it's affecting the parents. The parents are gonna have to provide the busing, the kids are gonna have the extra increase. And that's where I think they're getting the feel of a threat, because they don't see it. You know, you look at blinders on, as blinders wide open. They're seeing it, it's affecting me. It's not affecting what the school's doing. It's not affecting the administration. It's affecting me as a parent. It's affecting my kids. It's affecting my budget if I have to double the pay to plays, even for theater. You know, if you're gonna double that, how many kids are gonna drop out of the theater program? How many kids you gonna lose out of the band program? How many kids you gonna lose out of the athletic program? That's what they're looking at. It's affecting me as a parent, and it's affecting my kids. They don't see it as an effect that it's hurting the schools on me.
Maybe people need to see that there are X number of people working within this system who are residents of one of these two communities. And these people's jobs are at risk too. If that happens, then these people have no jobs. They can't afford to pay their taxes. More than likely, eventually, if that keeps happening and they don't get a job elsewhere, that's more houses up for sale. And you know, more people who can't pay into the system that we have. If we have that many people not paying in, then our amount per household is gonna have to go up. So you're gonna end up paying that more, one way or the other. It's just whether or not it goes per household, or if it gets divided nice and evenly. You know, the bottom line is, it's gonna have to be there somehow. But, you know, if there's nobody with any income here, then that's gonna be an issue, and it's gonna be dispersed some other way.
Someone mentioned the threat to me, and now it's impacting, you know, I probably said so now, so I go back to this. You know, if this was, we were trying to threaten you, we wouldn't have done it. I mean, we have borne, the school district has borne the brunt of these reductions. The employees, people picking up more responsibility, you know, other than high school parents dealing with the busing and the pay to participate, I don't think most people have seen this. We've done it internally to the tune of over $8 million. And I don't know what else to pull out of this place without really impacting kids, and that's why we're at the next step.
And the other thing that seems to me common sense, but maybe it needs to be put into some front of somebody's eyes, is cost of, pick out some budget line item from 2002 and show cost then or cost now.
John Newton said that at the alcohol meeting, he
They talked about
said diesel fuel in 2002 was $1.42, I want to say, a gallon, and today it's $4.63 or
So
something.
just, again, visuals can go a long way.
That's huge.
We get about 5 miles a gallon roughly.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even say that.
How many children ride the bus, right now? Approximately.
I'd have to read, I don't know that number. Get it? Or you think?
You know, there's another point to bring out. I noticed you were saying at work, people were saying this, that. Now, frankly, I don't hear too much dissent when I'm at Acton, where a lot of our students actually work. But if you walk into Target, if you walk into a lot of the stores over along that strip over there, at Walmart, the employees there who do work in this community are grousing, even while you're at the register. The conversation going on between two employees there, or more than two employees, while you're at the register is, I can't see that the school district's asking for money yet again. What do they think we are, made of gold? And really, this is the conversation I've actually heard. I went over to buy a printer and inked at Target at the beginning of the school year. And there were 4 people. Now, mind you, there were 4 people at that register. Only one of them needed to be there, made on me. But they were all standing at the register talking about, and I'm thinking, and my ink just doubled in price. So, you know, I mean, and I said to them, I go, well, my ink just went up by twice the price. They're not asking you for double the taxes. And there's 4 of you standing here with me, only one person waiting on you. They've got less people working. They're asking for a little bit more in taxes, but it's not doubling your amount. And they're doing it with less. Here's 4 of you standing here, and my price just doubled. It still does, I don't think it meant anything to them, but you know, that is the reality. If there were a way to talk to the people who work in those stores, that might increase our yeses immensely. I just don't know a way around it.
I have to say too, that most people, and it's a very, very confusing system of funding, don't understand millage, that millage generates so many dollars. The millage changes, the dollars don't. So school districts don't generate money. They rely on federal, state, and local funds for it. Costs are always going to go up. They're not going to go down. It's just not going to happen. So at some point, you have to ask for more money. And I don't know where we go wrong over the last 25 years, and 3 levies passed, 3 new money levies. I don't know what it is that we're doing or not doing that keeps people from seeing the value of the funding.
Have you seen a difference with this levy? Have you seen a difference with more people coming out, more people?
I think so.
I don't know, I mean, I have such a insular, I guess, group of friends that I don't know a lot of older people in this community and stuff like that, so I can't gauge what is going on. What I do see is just more and more different groups coming out in support, and I'm hoping that in the next 2 weeks, just staying on the same message that we're one of the best school districts in Ohio. We are lowest cost. All of the schools around us, we beat them. I mean, what was So we're lower than Streetsboro, right? Cost per student.
Cost per student.
I mean, we're lower than Talbot.
Streetsboro, close.
We are cheap. It's a bargain. Yeah, I think if we keep the point we've got out, and the fact that we have not had an increase since 2000, drilling that, and eventually that message just gets out there. Because you can argue all these little points. I think people really don't want to argue little points. I think they just want to say their opinion.
I just really like the positive take that you guys are taking. I think this positive, that, you know, that is the only way I think we're gonna succeed. Because just over everything that's happening, you know, we have to be positive. I just really like that.
It takes far too much energy.
Well, we do know though, if all the parents that we had would vote yes, it would pass.
Right. And that's where
So we know
They
that.
have to all be registered first.
We know that, so.
Yeah, that's it.
And I think
And
that's
that's
why
who
getting
we're
into
at.
schools has been very, I mean, as many parents as you can drag out, you know, we're gonna try to do another 2 at Echo Hills this week. And, you know,
Unfortunately, one of them is our Lord Mayor.
yeah.
I have a very eclectic group of friends, and I have teachers that are friends, I have some of those teachers that are actually, it just pains me to say this, but they're actually opposed to this for all the wrong reasons, but.
What are some of the reasons?
I'm sorry.
What are some of the reasons?
They don't like the administration, they don't like their working conditions. You know, they feel put upon by the board, the administration.
They have to work.
They have to work, yeah, I mean, you know. it's-
Well, they're cutting off their noses
I know,
to
it's-
spite
it's
themselves, so.
incredibly. I also have teachers that, and the vast majority of teachers in the school system are absolutely super. You couldn't
They
ask
really
them.
are.
They really are. I have retired people that are worried about the money, the finance side of it. I have younger families, you know, 28, 29-year-old kids, as I'll call them, that say, man, this is just gonna really be a pinch, but my kids are gonna be in this school. So it runs across the board, but I mean, I don't know how we can do better to convey it as an investment in positive spirit, as you said.
You know, I get in an argument with, this, oh my gosh.
You do?
And I just, yeah. No, I don't mean argue. Well, we have a disagreement. It's a discussion. What concessions have the teachers made with the unions? That needs to be posted.
And
Some, yeah, and classified, both. I said, they have. No, they haven't. Yes, they have.
Or they'll say,
But-
oh, well, they're gonna get a, once this levy goes through, they're gonna get a raise next year.
But
But
they
they're in a
won't.
contract, it's
Right.
not gonna happen.
No, it's, and that's what, that also needs to be posted somewhere. And that's what I need to go back and say, look, because I was just texting and
If they
well,
go,
I'm at Lake Erie
if
now.
you go, I'm sorry to interrupt, but on the
Sorry.
red SOS button, boom, hit that, the links
It's
come out.
on there now?
There's
Okay.
press releases talking about the teachers taking a pay freeze, classified taking a pay freeze, administrators taking a pay freeze.
And what about with the benefits?
It's in there too.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is, but they've taken,
Percentage.
they have a 2-year contract,
Percentage on that
they're
check.
taking a pay freeze for the next 2 years. Their contribution to benefits is doubling,
Okay,
and then the
good.
following year, it triples.
Good.
So that's 100% increase that first year when it doubles, 200%. You know, if you
It's
look at
something.
percentage-wise, you know, the majority of corporations are increasing percentages, and ours went up maybe 20%, not 100%. So even though they are paying a lot less compared to corporate America as a whole, what are they paying compared to other teachers? And you know, other districts, I mean, that's one of the perks of the teacher. But times are changing, and they're taking concessions. And there's something in there about a stipend. People get upset about a stipend. They're receiving a $1,000 stipend for a full-time employee and $500 for a part-time employee just the first year.
Second year.
The second year when it starts, when it's implemented. And I know with my husband's company, they did the same thing to ease the burden as we were moving into a different transition. So we have a different type of program now. It used to be where we co-paid. Now we have this catastrophic plan and we have to pay everything. You know, so if I go to the hospital, that's my bill. You know, instead of the $50 copay. So it's just to ease the transition, and that's not something they're going to be continuing.
No, that's right, so it is under the SOS, yeah, I
People don't
understand.
look it up, they don't wanna know.
No, they don't really know it. So yeah, we have to be
Push them
educated
in
enough
SOS
to spit it
right.
out. 2 years, they're under contract, even if the levy passes, it's a contract. They can't do anything. Can we renegotiate? It's a contract.
You know what, and I want to go back to the statement about, some of the teachers are classified aren't on board. We have, is it like 600 and some employees? Okay, and I know from talking with them, et cetera, you're not going to find 600 and some employees in any establishment. It's going to be 100% anything. You're always going to have a few grousers. And I would say minimal. But as we know, grousers make noise, and the good ones that just go to school or they drive the bus or whatever, they're not out there grousing. They're just saying, okay, this is fair, whatever. And I think we need to get that word out because we do have a good backing from our certified and our classified. They really are backing this, so.
Oh, I didn't know.
Well, you're the one that said that, Mike, geez.
I thought that was saying that teachers don't support it. They do. It's just that there are some that are very.
We have grousers.
But I think, Laura, it wasn't your husband the one that spoke at Oregon Stow Youth Baseball Hall about how the teachers, knowing what they know, would have never agreed to anything like that if they were uncomfortable with our financial situation and how it was being dealt with.
So it's pretty rare for a union.
Right.
Anybody
They know you have
would
money,
know that if
they're
you
gonna
do
go
that
for it.
much, knew that's all you could get.
Right. He spoke, that was a very key point that night, I think.
I think one other important point we should make clear, too, is we need to make sure that we don't take our foot off the gas on these cuts and make sure that people don't think that, after the levy's passed, we're going to sign a big check for all the floodgates open, all this money comes available. So, I think we need to tell them that we're going to stay frugal, stay lean and mean, and give our kids the best education we can. Because that's out there too.
That's where I struggle with, so what are they gonna use all the money for? Well, it's just to keep it right where we got. That's it, we're not looking for anything extra.
I like the way, I think Chet said it at the Echo Hills meeting where he said, the school district has not had an increase of new money since 2002, and to put it in perspective, have you gotten a raise in the past 10 years? My husband, has gotten a raise every single year. He did lose his job, that's why we moved back here, but, his new job, and even the job before, he's always gotten a raise every single year, whether it's, somewhere between 1% and 5%. And the school district hasn't. And so, your costs, like you said, have continue to go up, no cost of living adjustment at all. And even our seniors who get Social Security, they're getting an increase,
First time
this year. Yeah, of like $31 or something. So, that's huge. And so the seniors are getting it. Well, what about the schools? The schools are just as in bad a need as, everybody else. So.
I agree with what you're saying. I think the biggest issue with that is that people do not equate the school district as people. And they say, well, the teacher still got raises, or the bus driver still got raises, or the secretary still got raises. In their heads, the people working there got raises, therefore the school district got more money. It doesn't matter if it's not true. That's how people see it. Unfortunately, I don't know. I know they can go and look up everybody's salary. I saw somebody post something the other day, and it said something about, you can go online and look at what my salary is, but what's your salary? And someone said, I'm not going to tell you. Because if you're in the private sector, that's what happens. And if you're not, if you work in a school district, that's exactly what happens. And it was a posting that somebody put, I think it was on Facebook or something like that, but, and I think that one had to do with the issue too.
But 85% of the budget is salary and benefits, so that's,
Okay, well,
but we're
I
a
hate to say
school.
this because I'm a
Right.
teacher, but what classroom do you ever go into that doesn't have a teacher?
Right.
Aren't they important in a classroom?
Exactly.
I know, I would say this in this group, I don't say that in very many groups because I'm a teacher, but think about a school, not many classrooms do you go into that don't have a teacher in them. That's the most important part of a school.
Precisely.
I just have a hard time with that argument, sorry.
Well, no, I know. I teach too, so.
Yeah, what would we be without you?
There's bus drivers and custodians and cafeteria workers.
Right.
This is a service industry. We don't make
office, or, can't sell.
Well, it's funny, because when you said about, Riverview and the grass, and I remember, through the spring and the summer, when the kids were playing baseball, and we would get to Riverview, and it was like, what in the heck? Why isn't this grass cut? What's up with this? The kids looked like they were 2 feet tall with this grass, and now I feel bad, because I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right, I guess they do have to pay for this.
Yeah.
It makes sense, not to cut it, but not in school, why cut it?
And if you look at things globally, in other countries, your rate of pay for a teacher is usually within the top 10 earning status of the entire nation.
For other countries.
Yeah, like, I don't know that it still holds true. This was a number of years ago, but like, the highest earning people in Japan were teachers. In Germany, they were the second highest. In the United States, it's way at the bottom,
Well,
I don't think.
And I think the point to make is, yes, teachers don't make a lot. The teachers around here, the teachers in this district, do not. They're taking hits. We're operating at the lowest we can, and you know what I mean? And there's some people that are not going to buy it, but I think just keep driving them the point where it's cost effective as you're going to get
Right.
the top schools.
And we're talking about our grassroots efforts, maybe we need to start putting that in the heads of our children from day one, that this is how it's paid in other countries, and by the time they graduate and become taxpayers, they'll say, it's really important that we make sure we pass these school levies, because in this country, you don't make much if you're working with us, and we're important too. I think it's horrid that a child should have to come home and feel that they're not worth the $200 or $250 because somebody couldn't be willing to take the time to say yes on a tax levy, and that they're not valued at that. You see those ads on TV that say X amount for this, X amount for this, and then it's like time spent with your child, priceless. But they don't mean time spent with your child, because they now have to stay home because there's no building to go to do anything, because they had to be shut down at 4 o'clock or at 6 o'clock. It is priceless, and yet we're having to put a dollar limit on it for the levy. And I think it's just, despicable is perhaps a term people don't want to use, but I do think it's despicable. There are people around here that think that the young children of our community are not worth that, because those people are eventually going to become our taxpayers too. And if we don't educate them right now, then we're going to be in worse condition 20 years down the road.
We have about 15 minutes, and we're fortunate to have 2 candidates for school board here. Three. I'm sorry, Pat, I didn't really forget you. You're in combo. Candidates who
I
want
don't
to
know
come.
about this big guy over here.
We have Fred Bonacci and Kelly Toppin here, and maybe if you want to, well, first, do you have any other levy-related questions? I guess we'll cover that first. That is the focus of this meeting. If you do, we'll take care of those.
I'm interested in connecting with somebody about writing a letter to the editor. I know I can do that on my own, but if there's key points that should be put into a letter,
Talk to Stephanie. Your deadline, I believe, is this coming Wednesday.
Okay.
I don't think that this Wednesday will be the last day they'll publish. They'll take letters to the editor.
Okay.
So talk to Stephanie, and she can give you some hints. Jackie Mezzarotto is the other one, and don't really want to guide your letters, but I thank you for asking that. That's a good point.
It's been so nice seeing those positive letters in here for a change.
Email
I should be afraid to open up to Stow Century, and I go, oh man, leave it at the end of my driveway, and now I go for it, and so we thank you.
At 9 a.m. Wednesday, you gotta get it in early. And Marcia's a very good lady, but she has a deadline and she sticks to it.
Sure.
150 words.
300.
300?
Yeah. Mike, why do you think people that don't have kids in the system are against the levy? I mean, that's what I understand.
I don't know.
What was the comment?
I mean, why are people that have kids that are in the system against it? I mean,
My only experience has been that they've been burned at some point.
It's been, to me, it's been directed at one
It's
person.
been a personal issue,
but their kids are still in the system. So.
I agree. I think it has, because I only know a couple people that are against it,
Yeah.
and that's right.
And most of them are people who have lived here and were here when this building was built, and that's their issue right there.
So it's just, it's things you
It
can't
really
change.
is still, I know, that many years later.
That was an issue when I was in school here.
Come on, equal. That's,
Still
because
I lived
that's
for
what,
4 years,
exactly.
trying to find the swimming pool that's here.
You're sitting,
You're
sitting.
Go to the lower gym, that's where it was supposed to be. That's where it is.
Okay, any other levy related questions?
I know you brought up the classified staff and how skim it is, but I do hear a lot of people saying, why don't you open the levy because the schools look so bad. You're talking about the high grass and all, but when we come up here to the high school, it looks terrible outside. And I think when you're bringing new people into the community and, you know, people are checking out the schools, they want to live here, people go elsewhere because it looks bad. I've heard that several times, and I realize it's a personnel, you know, do we have time to do this, but the visual, again, that's visuals, but it's not paper, it's what's real, what's here.
How many maintenance people do we have for 11 buildings?
I know, that's what I said, I get that part, but it's still the visual, this looks, you know, when there's weeds growing everywhere
I want to
and
bring my weed
driveways,
whacker
it
up
just,
there.
yeah. I keep telling my father, you don't live here, but come, because that's the kind of thing.
Well, Mrs. Scherer, I've tried to address some of that. You've seen the signs, the bulldog and the welcome.
Oh, yeah, that looks great.
She actually took money out of her principal's account to hire service to do some landscaping around the front because she
Actually, the
felt
front looks
the same way, but I know what you mean.
No, maybe the school should start like a landscaping program. Kids can learn how to do landscaping skills.
There's some value if the levy passes to invite people to a volunteer meeting. If people are concerned about the appearance, and people all throughout the community next door to us have skills or are willing to learn, then let's contribute to making
That's a good PR move to show how much we want to invest in our schools. I would be
Can you do that?
PTAs would always
Maybe
love
with
to
the
have
union?
People gotta be a little careful, but we already have volunteers, and it's been okay because everybody knows we just don't have the staff.
The Booster Club at the high school, we maintain everything inside the gate of the football field.
Right.
We maintain the soccer field by the bus garage. So we cut all the grass, we fertilize, we do all that. The schools don't. And they have worked with us and allowed us to do that. The union has allowed it because of the lack of people here. The coaches take care of the softball fields. And, so basically they're mowing the common ground is basically what they're doing now. And either the coaches of the individual sports or the Booster Club is maintaining all the rest of the land.
Well, that looks good.
So that's in the cost savings too, right?
I think that's such a listed tool when we hear, when you see so many people talking about the negative things, when that just action of a bunch of people who care enough about their school just kind of starts a snowball effect. Wow, we've got a really good school system, good town. So, I mean, I don't know how to, I think it's a good idea.
Is that mentioned? I can't remember because it's been a little while now since I've looked under the SOS button, but is that alluded to or mentioned under there? Well, because I was subbing here the past 2 days, and I actually heard somebody outside as I was leaving. I didn't know the person, so I couldn't tell you who it was. Not that I would anyhow, but still, I heard somebody say, oh, look at all that new stuff they're getting over at the stadium. How come they can afford to pay for this? And I was like, oh my gosh. I said to my son really loudly, so I wasn't addressing the
Even
person.
that wall that they're building in the entrance to football stadium is all done by Booster Club.
Right, well, and my son's on the football team, so I said something loudly.
Even the French fry trail we have right on private funds.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I think these are people who are fishing. They're fishing for a reason. And I don't know if there's any way to convince, hopefully they're that 20%.
Well, hey, if we do that, if we do have a bunch of people get together to help with the landscaping, I've got a lawnmower, I'll donate.
You're donating.
Yeah, my wage goes to the ground.
Wait a minute, Laura. But that might be something to mention at that.
Oh, that's right, her husband's the
next
wife.
Friday. You know, to make sure that people are aware.
Donate the husband.
I know, it may just be the positive people who stay anyhow, but still, maybe the neighbors who aren't there can still hear it.
We just have a few minutes left. If you want, would you like to hear from the school board candidates? Well, we'll give the incumbent, Pat Matthews, the floor first. Pat, if you'd like to just briefly
I get the lead on this? I get the lead. Okay, oh, I can certainly say the last 4 years, this is my first term, has certainly been 4 years of an education in itself, about all that it takes to run a good school system. I think that I have, of course, I don't know if everybody knows, I'm a Holy Family retired teacher. So when you were bringing that up, I'm thinking, oh boy, you know. But I just got, all of my children went through Stow, but I just have such a great respect for our administrators, our teachers, and our classified. I mean, we just have a great bunch of people that have given their all to the school, and I would just hate it when I would see those negative letters. You know, why don't they take less money? Why do you know they're not doing this? So I'm glad that has died down. I have, you know, if I do get reelected, you know, I would like to continue to see we keep our excellent, maybe distinction, maybe whatever the latest is, but I have higher goals for technology too. We cannot get behind because the kids are already there, and we have to try to keep our educational system with it. But anyway, I just have to thank all the people that I've met along the way, and it's been a good ride, and we'll see if I get another 4 years to continue. Good luck, Kevin.
Next is Kelly Toppin, and it's Mr. Kelly Toppin. I accused him to one of my neighbors of him being she. When I was asking about him, what kind of candidate he would be, and I said she, and my neighbor kept saying he. So Mr. Kelly Toppin tells me, go ahead.
I'm kind of new to the political scene. I do have 2 of my children are in the Stow Munroe Falls school system. I have a freshman here at the high school. I have a 6th grader at Lakeview. My goal of becoming more involved in the community, I attended some of the school board meetings and kind of seen the left curve of the way
and he's still
some
running.
of the conversations and discussions went, and felt that it was time that somebody, you know, new from the community got involved, somebody with the kids currently in the school system. I know busing is a big subject right now among many of the parents. And looking at it, there are some options going forward that we may have that I would like to bring to the table if elected, that we could bring busing back to all the schools and maybe even lower the cost of what it costs us. There are some options out there that we have. We do have a strong teaching staff here at the school. My daughters have had excellent experiences coming through the schools. I myself am a former teacher that still currently holds a teaching license, not actively using it right now. I've been in the community for 12 years. I am a taxpayer in the city of Stow. I will support the levy. So if you're looking for some new ideas and maybe some ideas for budget cuts, I hope that come November, I guess a little pitch is to know where to put the X in the box.
Fred Bonacci.
Fred Bonacci. I've been a Stow resident for 45 years. I graduated from Stow in 1976. My wife was taught high school English here in the past. I had a son who graduated in 2007 and a daughter in 2010 from Stow. Great education for myself. Worked out well for me. Worked out well for my son, graduated from OU, and my daughter's at Baldwin Wallace. I got a lot of pride in Stow. Been here when Route 91 was a 2-lane road. So I got a lot of history here, a lot of passion. President of the high school booster club for the last 3 years. We did a lot for the student athletes. I want to do more for all the students. I want to get on the board to have some input how this envision where we're going to go in the future. I will commit to you that even I support the levy, like Kelly, like Pat. But I will guarantee to you that I will look and scrutinize every dollar going forward, and if the levy passes, we have to do more with less. There's no guarantees what the 2-year budget's going to come out next year for the state of Ohio, so we don't think it could be worse. So you have my commitment to teachers and the classified backbone of this system, and I'm here to support it and hopefully get a shot to see what I can do on the board also. Thanks.
Thank you. In all fairness, we do have the 2 remaining board members here, Karen Wright and Dick Spangler. They're the ones that are guaranteed a seat on the board.
2 years, yes.
And I'm coming, are you kidding?
No, not 2 years.
2 months.
And I support the levy fully.
Absolutely.
As you.
We both do. Right.
We do have some time, and I think we should take the time. If you have any questions for any of these guys, please ask.
I have a question. Did anybody see the poster on anybody's door or window or glass or something? Or stick it up when you got it? Yeah. I think that's important. I go around, knock on doors or talk to people walking by that I have mine. Where's yours? Yours, and they go, try that again. Some might have not realized it's a poster. They've read it, but they haven't seen it. Get them up.
I'm gonna get new tape, I'm just falling off.
Scotch tape is tough, but you gotta use it.
No, that's what I'm using.
Thank you. Nice to be here today. Seal.
Well, if there are no questions, thank you guys for coming. It means a lot to see people. I wish we had the house filled. Please spread the word, and I would encourage you on November 8th to vote early and vote often. But if you have any questions at all, please let us know. If there's any way you'd like to help with us over the next 2 weeks, see one of us. We'll get your name on the list. I believe Joanna is sending out emails to the volunteers. There are a number of things left to do. There's enough for everybody to do. But thank you. Our meeting Tuesday is not at Crooked River Grill, it's at On Tap. Same for the following week. Next Thursday, there are choices you'll have to make. There's a candidates night meeting at Safety Building on the 27th, and there's also another community engagement meeting at the Stow Public Library. And those are very important. So I hope to see you at those. Bring a friend, bring 5 friends, bring 10.
I want to throw in, I'm texting a few people that I know are opposed to levy as we speak.
Good.
And let me just share. One says, I'm torn, but I feel bad that our kids need to be bullied again. A lot of people can't afford it. And then another person with kids in the school system
Do they have
too.
kids that play sports or in any clubs? Because the levy will cost them less than the pay to participate.
Yes, they have
They cost a lot
kids
less.
in band and theater.
Go ahead and read the other one.
The other one says, the levy is, and this person has a child that's graduated, one that's in high school, and 1 or 2 that are in elementary with more coming in. The levy is a thorn in our sides. As much as I want it to pass for the kids, I feel that more cuts could be made and salaries at a pay freeze, along with teachers paying more for health care. Like the rest of the world, I have gone to lots of meetings and have heard all sides, and in reality, it's only 2 large pizzas a month for every household in Stow.
She must not get her
She
information.
doesn't go out anywhere, does she?
Well,
Right.
I'm also inviting her to come with me to see me.
Good.
She doesn't go to Pony Express.
What did you do?
That is great. Thank you so much. I like that.
I encourage everybody here to come to the board meeting Monday. I think it's important that if you support the levy, to come support the board too. So, it's very informative.
Right here in
At
this
7 o'clock.
room.
The 5-year forecast is gonna be presented too. It's very fun.
Well, if there's nothing else, we will leave. Again, thank you very much for coming. It is very much appreciated.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.